All right, Matt, you ready to do this?
Yes, sir. Punch it, Chewy.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton. My co-pilot's Matt Shaw. We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 195. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on the website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Matt, it has been a week. A lot has gone on, I feel like. I'm happy to be back here with you and to see your shining, smiling, beardless face.
Oh, yeah, you noticed, huh? That's why it's so shiny. It's not because I'm extra oily today, I promise.
Take a shower, young man.
Yeah, so first let's start with the lack of beard, because I forgot that I
what happened there?
have it. So here's the deal. Jesse and I are taking our 5-year anniversary trip to Disney World in less than a month. And to go to Disney World, you got to wear a mask. And it's hot and it's humid. And we've been wearing masks in San Antonio for a while. But for prolonged periods of time, it gets a little itchy with the beard and a little hotter.
Oh, yeah.
So I went ahead and did an experiment to see how much better it would be with no beard. And it is, I can confirm, cooler, better, less itch, less catch on your face. So I'll probably be sporting this look for the next month until we're back.
It reminds me of the day you were married.
It also reminds me of the day I was married, because any pictures after that day...
You have a beard.
I have a beard.
I know.
Many, many, many years of... Yeah, Emmy cries every time I even trim it. She literally cries. She goes, "That's not Daddy. Daddy has a beard." She hates it.
Wow.
So I have approval from everyone in my family. They all love the beard, but Grandma and Grandpa, they do not.
Well, I mean, that's the nature of Grandma and Grandpa.
Old school traditionalists. But anyway, I forgot about that.
Yeah. When I first started growing my beard out, kind of like the same thing, like the kids loved it because they were the ones rooting me on.
Right.
Burrito was kind of like, I don't know, because I was letting it all mountain man, no shape, no nothing. And when my mom saw it, she went, "Really, Spence? Really?" I was like, "What?" But she knows me enough to know, like, I would just grow a beard just to mess with people.
Sure.
But I will agree on the face mask thing with the beard, as I've got a full beard going right now. When I put a mask on and I've got to go like grocery shopping, or rarely when I have to go into the office with a beard, because like it just seems like the hair ends up grabbing that hot, moist air, and like it just it makes it probably a lot worse than it would be. However, this is what I was thinking. You know how like when you have a beard and you're not paying attention and you're drinking like water in the summer and you accidentally spill some in your beard, and then like you pull your cup away and then like a little breeze wafts over and you're like, ah.
Sure, yeah.
You could just keep a bucket of water with you, dunk your head into the bucket of water, and then, wiggle it out like a dog, and then put a mask on and just let the breeze
That's so much less work.
Cool you. It's an idea. I'm not saying it's perfect.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is an idea. I'll say that. It's an idea. But anyway, what brought that on was we went to SeaWorld for the first time since it has opened up on Friday. Me, Emmy, Lando, Jesse, we all went, and I still had my beard, and I was wearing the mask, and I was like, this is fine. I'm okay with this. We have like 4 different masks because you got to find the right ones for the temperature and what works best and how do you breathe. And I don't even know how much money I've spent on masks, but found the right contraptions that make it feel right, and now with the no shave, it's going to be nice. But we did go to SeaWorld, and that was a lot of fun. It's similar that you have to like make a reservation before you go. For people like us, annual pass holders. But it was easy. It was simple. We went right in and had a great time. Emmy had to wear a mask, ages 2 and up, but Emmy loves her mask. She wears it when she doesn't have to because she's weird.
That's awesome.
But she also wants to be like daddy and mommy. And so she's got no problem wearing a mask and wearing it properly. Over the nose, everything. She's all in. So that was a lot of fun. And then on Saturday, I busted out some pulled pork and smoked it.
Ooh.
So that turned out like really, really good. In Texas, we don't really do pulled pork. That's not our style of barbecue.
It's not brisket.
So I tried,
it's not steak.
Right. So I tried, kind of a Carolina type thing. So there was more rub involved, and it was a lot sweeter than what we're used to here. But it was excellent. I loved it. Jesse loved it. Emmy loved it. So that was it's fun. It's just fun to feel cool.
That reminds me that I need to go get some brisket because Breda's been asking me to make my brisket burnt ends again.
Ah, very nice.
And I haven't done that in a while. I'm actually literally just wrote that down. Like, go get brisket for brisket burnt ends this weekend.
Nice. Yeah. So that was fun. And then other than that, Jesse and I this week, our show has been, I can't remember if I talked about this last week or not, but the Umbrella Academy.
Hey.
We're watching.
We started that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we started it last night. We watched 2 episodes.
Okay, I wonder if Jesse talked to Brita. I know she told Reese about it today as well.
Probably.
But we've been watching the freaking crap. Look, we try to get to bed at a reasonable hour because Emmy and Lando wake up and it's 6 a.m.
Sure. It's kids, yeah.
But these episodes are a full 1 hour, and we watched 5 episodes in one night. And for us, that's like, oh my gosh, you guys are really living on the edge.
That takes me back to the days when like I would watch 24 and I would binge it and like just one more. Next thing I know, it's like 3 a.m. and I've watched like 7 of them in a row.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, it felt like that. So we're way late to the Umbrella Academy game, as it sounds like you are, but it's actually a pretty great show. I hadn't heard a whole ton about it. It looked kind of strange, but actually
Can
really
I ask you a question about the Umbrella Academy without spoilers? We've only seen the first 2 episodes.
Uh-huh.
And so far I'm kind of on the fence with it. Like I'm like, okay, there's some cool things here. I kind of get where they're coming from, but it's like it hasn't hooked me yet.
It will. It will. It gets really, really good at the end of the season. And then like season 2 so far, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. How many
episodes though? How many episodes per?
8.
8? Okay.
Yeah, so it's Stranger Things sized.
Yeah. The new streaming model.
Exactly. Yeah, 8 1-hour episodes. So that was something that we really, really enjoyed this week. Other than that, it's just been Stanley Cup playoffs, NBA final playoffs. All
Have you downloaded Fall Guys?
No, I haven't downloaded Fall Guys. I know. My brother's telling me to download it too. I have not.
Matt, I'm considering buying it on Steam so I can play it with my PC friends.
Oh, man. That fun, huh? Okay, well, I will consider it again this week and probably forget.
It is free. At least do this.
Let me write it down.
Go to your PlayStation Store, download it right now while it's, or purchase it, get it into your library while it's at least free, and then you can download it later.
Okay.
Because I'm going to start bugging you every day until you get it.
Okay.
Because I think not only you, but I think your wife, Jessie, I also think Emmy will enjoy it.
Emmy loves to watch me play anything. Look,
no,
am I a bad
she's going to want to play it.
Oh, okay.
Because my boys play it. Like, my boys love playing that game.
Well, Emmy's 3. She can't really do anything.
It's 3 buttons. She'll figure it out, I promise.
Yeah, we'll see.
She'll be like, Daddy, I want to be Jelly Bean. That's what the conversation you'll hear.
Okay. Oh boy,
yeah.
I don't know if I want it then. I don't want to talk about jelly beans.
I will. I'll use that as my transition into my week. I am playing the mess out of Fall Guys. Listen, I stream on Twitch, and I'm a variety streamer, which, by the way, Fort of Nerd 79 on twitch.tv. Go hit that follow button. Come on, super friends.
Yeah.
Join me. It's fun. But I'm a variety streamer. So like I stream things like lately I've been playing the Final Fantasy VII Classic original from the PS1 generation because I played it a bunch, so I don't have to really read all the dialogue. I can interact with chat and with all the super friends that are hanging out, and we have a good time and we laugh, and they use the little points you can accumulate by watching for so long to make me do stupid, ridiculous voices, accents. Sometimes they'll redeem karaoke time and I have to sing a song that they pick. Like, it's fun stuff. I've streamed games like Spider-Man, and I've streamed, things like, that have like story to them, like The Witcher 3, which was really graphic and rough. But this last week, since I've gotten Fall Guys, I'm only streaming Fall Guys. There is something so satisfying about being a little jelly bean that you can kind of like, switch out the skin and the costumes and whatever. So you can kind of customize it a little bit, and you can switch between match, like at the start of each new round of your matches. Like you don't have to be tied to one thing, but there's something so satisfying of like running through these like little like Wipeout / MXC, if you remember those shows, like these little courses, obstacles, while you're this little jelly bean and like the physics kind of behind it and watching them bump and bounce around, and it is ridiculously fun. And I did another 8-hour stream this last Friday night, where I said last week that I did an 8-hour stream. I did it again.
Oh my gosh.
But this time I started a little earlier, so I finished at about 1:45 in the morning and not 3 in the morning.
Okay.
But look, it took me almost 20 hours of playing to notch my first win, which was just like 8 days ago. I got my first win. Now I'm sitting on 22 wins.
Oh, nice.
It was one of these things where like you kind of you get enough chance to see all the little levels, all these like little Wipeout levels, and then as you're playing you go, oh, okay, if I play it this way, I've been doing better. And then I kind of like stick to like, okay, this is my strategy on this little level, and then I kind of tweak it and improve it, and next thing I know, I'm going to like the final round in most of my games. And I'm figuring out how to kind of get there, and then what I need to do, and what's the best way to play it. And what I do is different than like a friend of mine who's got like 40 wins. Like, it's just great. It's awesome. Fun. It's so much fun. I'm probably going to I think this week I may actually try to clip out some of my Fall Guy wins and epic losses, and maybe I'll even do some voiceover, and I'll toss up like a compilation video or something up on the YouTube, because I think that'd be fun.
Nice.
So anyway, loving streaming. It's a fun hobby to have.
Nice.
It gives me something to do while I'm playing video games.
Yeah.
I told you about my chair, right? And how it's broken, and like how I was like seething with like bitterness and anger last episode. I'm still sitting at the bottom of this dang chair, but the company is going to be sending me a gas piston to replace the one that's here. So
good.
Fingers crossed that comes this week.
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of sitting at the lowest setting and feel like I'm a kid. Just bellied up against the table. Anyway, so that's still kind of waiting on. This week and kind of like weekend, our neighbor that lives across the street came over and asked if the boys would be willing to water his flowers, because his family, they were going to be going down to like southern Utah for 5-6 days. And with how hot it is right now, like we broke over 100 degrees today. We're going to be there over 100 degrees pretty much for the next week and a half. The week before, we were in the high 90s. Like, it's just that time of the year here. They were really worried about their flowers not getting enough water, and they asked the boys if they did that, that they'd give them a little bit of money. So it was really kind of cool to, like, take my boys over and kind of help, and Brita did a lot of this too. and have them water and take a little bit of responsibility. And on the first day, they said, okay, can we get our money now? And I said, no, the job's not over. You got to do this for like the next 5 days. And every day we went over, and they never complained about it, and they were really kind of excited, and it gave them something to do and get out of the house a little bit. But it was kind of a nice opportunity to teach them about, when you commit to doing something, when you say you're going to help someone out, you have to follow through on it, and you don't get paid for half a job done. You got to do the whole thing.
Nice.
And so it's kind of a nice teaching moment. And then the neighbor came over, real great guy, Brandon. He came over today, and he gave the boys each a pack of Pokemon cards and a $2 bill. And the boys were excited by the money, and they're like, ooh. And Jackson wants to spend it on like skins for his Minecraft already on his tablet. We're like, guys, like a $2 bill, like only bankers and magicians use these things anymore.
Yeah.
So like, kind of hold on to it. That's kind of cool. So they got that, and then when they saw the Pokemon cards, they were ripping into the Pokemon cards.
That's awesome.
And the neighbor's got a son that's pretty much right between Charlie and Jackson in ages. And Jackson and their son, Griffin, were in kindergarten together last year. So like they were kind of running around in the front living room talking about Pokemon cards. And
that's
we were just
awesome.
kind of all discussing the school situation and what's going on there. And
right.
So that was that. And then the last thing, do you remember a little while ago when I told you that we sat down and watched Captain America with the boys?
Yep.
And I was a little worried. I was like, it's PG-13, but it's really PG-13 because of all the intense action and whatnot.
Right.
Well, the boys have been asking to watch like a movie with Spider-Man or with, Groot and Rocket. And so like I was like, I don't want to just like throw you into Guardians or throw you into an Avengers movie.
Right.
Because there's way too much stuff. So we sat down and watched the 2008 Iron Man this weekend with them.
Okay.
And it's pretty much action. I mean, there's a little bit of language, but Breed and I kind of know where that's at. So like we can, cough really loudly, quickly mute it, something like that. The only thing was at the very, very, very beginning of the movie, Tony Stark takes a reporter home, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then Pepper helps see her out the next morning. And so like halfway through the movie, there's this spot where Iron Man, Tony Stark is at like some like charity event, and Pepper's there, and they almost kiss. And Jackson kept saying, he says, "Mommy, where's Iron Man's wife?" She said, "What?" He said, "Where's Iron Man's wife?" I said, "Well, he's not married." He says, "Yes, he is. He's married." No, he's not. "Yes, he is. His wife was in the very beginning of the movie when they were kissing." I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, didn't quite get that. We did kind of,
right.
Listen, I don't need to explain it, but in his little mind, if you kiss a girl, you're married.
That's funny.
And he was wondering. I was like, yeah, I don't know how the rest of this is gonna work out, because Iron Man, yeah, we'll have to see how this goes. Anyway, it was fun going back and rewatching that film, and then watching it with them, because both of the boys were kind of like, I don't know. And they actually put up some resistance to watching it. After the movie was over, they were jumping off the couches. Jackson was pretending to throw his little hands out to use his repulsors to blast light out of his chest. And he said, "Daddy, watch me fly." And he put both of his hands to his sides and, flipped his palms out. And I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you guys like it. We're fine. So
that's
awesome. It's a good week. Kind of crazy. I feel like lots going on. Fall Guys. I swear any spare moment that the kids aren't bugging me or asleep, Brita doesn't need anything, I'm like, I'll just pop on and get a few games in. So,
nice.
That's been my week. So, I think, Matt, in the spirit of Fall Guys, we should kill the Bothans like the little jelly beans do from time to time by tossing them into the slime never to see them again.
I'm in.
Done.
I always have to let you know
Many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Matt, it's Rebel Intelligence. What do you have for me this week?
Well, I've got a little update on an old friend of ours, Blockbuster Video.
Oh, yes.
So I think we've talked about this. There kind of being only one Blockbuster store left in Bend, Oregon.
Right.
And we've got a little publicity stunt of sorts. So for 3 nights, it's going to be that store will be on Airbnb, and you'll be able to rent it out for the night. It will be decked out with a living room where you can watch any movie you want in the store, as long as, of course, it's not already checked out by somebody who's an actual customer.
Right.
So like I said, it's only kind of a 3-day publicity stunt just to get people, I assume, nostalgic for the experience and to pull publicity. We're talking about it. No such thing as bad press, in the words of Leonard from Community. So,
right, you're talking about it.
Exactly. And I looking at the picture, none of you can see it listening. However, if you go look it up, Blockbuster Video Airbnb, like, it's a cool little room. And it looks like just like an old living room from like the 90s. I mean, the architecture of everything, it looks to me, you can't really tell, but it looks to me like an old TV. It's definitely in the 4:3 aspect ratio. So it's very much reminiscent of growing up. And if I were, 10 again, this would be a dream come true. Being able to watch all of the movies in the whole store, whatever movie I want. So anyway, pretty cool little publicity stunt. It just brought me back, reading about it brought me back to riding my bike to Blockbuster and renting video games and having a Blockbuster card and taking my mom's with my friends so we could rent, an M-rated game or something like that so that we could... It just reminded me of the old days. It was a lot of fun to think about.
The funny thing is, my brother was at that Blockbuster like a week ago.
Oh, really?
He, along with his family and another family they're real good friends with, took a socially distancing driving vacation from Utah over to the Oregon coast. And they were going to go see a bunch of stuff and hike through a bunch of nature trails and go to the coast, which I always think is kind of weird to say, but in Oregon it makes sense because yes, there is a beach, but it's not the same thing as like a Southern California beach. Yeah.
Yep.
So they went over there on this trip, and my brother was talking to me before he went, and he said, we're thinking about going and seeing the last Blockbuster, but it was like 2 hours out of their way.
Oh my gosh.
There was nothing else around there. And then like 3 days later, he's sending me pictures of him at that Blockbuster. And he said you walk in and it's just like you remember from the 90s. It's a Blockbuster. Yeah. Except they have current movies. He says, though, that they probably have a mixed model of rentals versus nostalgia t-shirts and bumper stickers. And
Sure.
They sell a lot of things to kind of like capitalize on, like, we're the last one. And so this Airbnb idea kind of, to me, says like it's kind of that same thing, but they actually have an online shop. Like, you could go and get a Blockbuster t-shirt from them online. I'm actually thinking about buying one because I was going through it. They look like the old vintage Blockbuster t-shirts, and it's like, that's kind of a throwback. Like, not a lot of people are going to have that. Yeah. So that's kind of a cool thing.
That's awesome.
I don't know that I'd take a vacation to see it, but if I was in the area,
oh, for sure,
I would definitely go.
That's awesome.
Speaking of things that are still holding on for dear life.
Okay, yeah.
AMC.
Oh, dear.
AMC this week. Matter of fact, on Thursday when the podcast releases, is kind of going through its first wave of reopening theaters, and they're going to celebrate it with a 15-cent ticket price for a bunch of the movies that they will be showing. You're not going to be able to go see, Tenet for 15 cents.
Yeah.
You'll still have to pay for that because that comes out like September 3rd, I think. But basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to get people back into the theater. So movies like Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, Black Panther, Empire Strikes Back, like that's why a few weeks ago we were saying like, hey, Empire Strikes Back is like the #1 movie at the box office.
Right.
It's because there's no box office really right now.
Yeah.
So AMC's doing this. They're trying to get people to start coming back. They are taking all these precautions, and you can only sit so many people, like half capacity or I don't know, 30% capacity. Like they're going through all the things they need to do to protect people as best they can. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to entice people to come back by offering not only the 15-cent tickets on day one, but $5 tickets for all those fan favorites that I kind of mentioned before. Nice. So they're trying to keep themselves afloat. We know AMC said that they're financially in a really, really, really bad place through all of this. And there's movie theaters that are closing. Now you've got people like Disney Plus with Mulan that are going directly, because of how this happened, but directly to a streaming service, and others that have done it. And it looks like that could be a future model. I don't know, Matt. Like, I look at this and I say, okay, I don't want the movie theater experience to go away. At like the heart of it, I enjoy going to a movie theater. But I'm sorry, a 15-cent ticket, even a $5 ticket to a movie that I enjoy and I love, isn't worth me right now at this point taking additional risk that I don't need to. I can stay home and watch Back to the Future and not take any risk, zero risk. I feel for people who work in industries right now like this, in entertainment industries especially, because I think it's going to be a long time before people really start getting out and those industries can really be making money.
Yeah, it is tough. I think it's smart. I think what they're trying to do makes sense. Just get people there. Get people back to feeling comfortable, kind of welcome back, see what we have done, see how safe of an experience this is. And, there are several camps of people. There's people who want to take no risk. There's people who are, and I'm sure they're just trying to gauge what amount of people are willing to take this level of risk, which we know that we are, because Jesse and I went and saw a movie like 3 months ago, it feels like, on the podcast, like
right.
in the heart of the pandemic when they reopened here. So we're pretty, I don't know, risky. We went to SeaWorld, we're going to Disney World. I don't know. We're like 30 and healthy, so we're not extremely worried, and we have zero contact with anyone who could get super sick.
Sure.
There's no parents around anymore, no grandparents. We literally talk to each other, and I talk to you on this podcast. But anyway, I think it's a smart move, trying to figure out what is the demand, even if we put it at a low cost, and move forward. They have to move forward at some point, and can't be closed forever.
I don't blame them from a business standpoint. I understand why.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. I did also get an email from them, maybe this last week, saying like, hey, we're not charging you for your AMC A-list, but by the end of the year, we're going to start charging again, but you can always cancel. You can always do basically just kind of saying like, here's where we're at. And I was like, you know what? It's been nice not paying $20 a month for something I'm not using. I'm glad they took that approach.
Yeah.
So at least I do feel that even though they're trying to get their business going again, they're still being conscious of the consumer at the same time.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Yep, I like it. Speaking of movies and new movies.
New movies.
Aquaman 2. So I learned a few things about Aquaman.
Okay.
One, they're making a second one. That's the first thing I learned.
Have you seen the first one?
I have not seen the first one. So
it's worth watching. It's worth watching.
Well, I'm going to watch it now because I didn't know who the director was until I read this article today. I didn't know that James Wan was the director. And he said, talking about Aquaman 2, he says he's going to put a little more of his scary sauce into the upcoming sequel. And that eventually these things just kind of happen in movies like this where he just feels the itch and the need and it naturally comes out in dark films. He just has to have a touch of horror. So he said basically expect in Aquaman 2 for there to be more horror. And I was surprised to hear that James Wan had done something that wasn't horror because I know him from all of the horror movies that he has done, whether that's the Saw series or whatever else he's got going on.
Sure.
Horror has always been his kind of thing. And so now that I know he did Aquaman, I'm super interested in watching Aquaman, hoping it's not a bad movie. But anyway, so Aquaman 2, be prepared. Similar to Doctor Strange 2, them talking about adding some horror elements to that movie. I think we're seeing some genre bending, melding. I'm excited. This makes me, as someone who's never seen any Aquaman movie, excited for a second one if he delivers on a little bit of the horror aspect. So anyway, not great for you, I'm sure. But great for those of us that love the horror.
It's not going to be a full horror movie. So, I'll probably
be fine. Yeah, of course
we'll
you will.
See.
It'll be fine.
We'll see. Speaking of something that has suspense, not horror, but suspense and jump scares, The Last of Us.
Yes.
So The Last of Us and then The Last of Us 2, right? People, I heard someone say, it's a horror game. I'm like, it's not a horror game.
Right.
But it's a game that has a lot of suspense. We've been talking for a while about how there's been a lot of TV and movies that have tried to adapt video games. Some of them have done okay. A lot of them have done kind of
yeah.
And then there's some that have been just absolute horrible.
Right.
But we know that HBO is trying to adapt the first Last of Us game and make it a series on HBO. And just recently this week, or this last week, there was kind of an interview that was done with Craig Mazin, who's working on it for HBO. And he made a statement that he said that what they're trying to do is they're trying to separate the player experience from you interacting and playing the game to make it more of a passive experience, but still something you can relate to. And when I heard that, I kind of scratched my head trying to figure out what he was kind of intending to say. Like, what are you saying here? But I think at the heart of it, what he's really trying to say is that in a video game, you control the protagonist throughout the entire game. So usually you're presented with choices. And you make those choices based on how you would respond to a given situation. So, for example, years and years and years ago, when I was playing World of Warcraft, people would say, here's, this little item, blah, blah, blah. Here's some beer. You can, your character can drink beer. And if you drink enough beer, you can get drunk. And I would see half my teammates just running around, going into this tavern, drinking a bunch of beer, trying to get drunk, and then trying to puke or whatever. Just do something silly with their character. But I personally don't drink. And it's my own personal choice.
Right.
I understand who I am, and I know I would probably become an alcoholic if I ever started. So I just won't start. But I'm presented with the option of the game to do it. Mm-hmm. Is it going to hurt me to do it? No. But because I wouldn't do it, I just made the choice not to do it in the game. Because, once again, I'm the one making the choices for how I'm going to play as my character. So, in The Last of Us, you play as the main character, Joel. You make choices based off of situations that are presented to you as Joel, but you make that choice. And so most of that narrative focuses on Joel's headspace, his decision making, the things that are going on. In a TV show, they're going to have to find a way to still get you to care about Joel, to care about Ellie. But then there's also a lot of other people that are going to be around.
Yep.
And so they need to find a way to help you get kind of into their headspace and whatnot. And so I think it's a challenge, but I like that they're trying to say, we need to address this, because otherwise it's going to either alienate people that loved the video game series, or we're going to go too far the other way, and it's going to be really accessible to everyone else, but to the video game players, they're not going to feel like they were part of it and emotionally invested, I guess. So, interesting. At least the project is still going forward, Matt.
Yeah.
I want to see this.
Yeah, of course. It's going to, I don't know. I get what they're saying as well, and I think that they have a substantially difficult task in front of them.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of the fan base. I mean, we've seen the response to The Last of Us 2 when you don't do exactly what the fans want. Well, what some of the fans want, what the vocal minority
or they think
wants.
They want.
Yeah. So no matter what they do, it's going to piss people off.
Yeah.
And so if they go in knowing that that's the risk, that's great. They're still going to watch, so the reward's still high, so who cares?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, last thing I have is, of course, about the Star Wars Holiday Special. Right?
Oh.
Makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
That old gem?
That old gem. Just kidding. Disney Plus is doing a Star Wars Holiday Special Lego style.
Are they trolling us?
In November.
Are they going to make... Please tell me they're going to remake the old holiday special that was so bad, but with Legos, and do it kind of tongue-in-cheek so it's funny, but people won't... Oh, gosh, that could be so good.
That could be fun, but they're not doing that. But it will be it's similar. So they're going back to Kashyyyk to celebrate Life Day, but this takes place post Rise of Skywalker. So we will have characters that we're familiar with, all of the ones from the sequel trilogy, Finn and Rey and Poe and Chewie and stuff. But this is going to be, I was surprised, 45 minutes long of...
That's longer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, Lego Star Wars. And supposedly, according to USA Today, many of the actual cast will be there to voice their characters. So we can expect Daisy Ridley, and I don't know about John Boyega. He's been pretty anti almost, but Oscar Isaac, I would assume he would be back as well, and Jonas, whatever his name is, for Chewbacca's growls.
Sumato?
Sure. So anyway, this is... Here's what the kind of the synopsis says. The LEGO Star Wars Holiday Special is set after the events of the Rise of Skywalker, making a LEGO-based Christmas adventure in the vein of A Christmas Carol. The special sees Rey and BB-8 fresh off randomly bumping into an old woman on Tatooine. Follow in Luke's... But anyway, there's a whole lot of mumbo-jumbo here. Long story short... It looks like she's going to interact with heroes and villains from light and dark side of the Force, younger versions, older versions. So it's going to be this hodgepodge of Star Wars, basically celebrating Star Wars in a holiday way with Lego. So it'll be fun. Hopefully, with Lego, you know that they're going to kind of be cheeky about it, to use your tongue-in-cheek reference. They'll be cheeky and silly and laugh at themselves. So I'm excited for this. I will definitely be watching this with Emmy. When it comes out.
I'll watch this with the boys, for sure.
Yeah, it sounds fun. Sure. It'll be silly and a good time. So look forward to that in November on Disney+.
November. Nice. Okay, here's the last thing. This is kind of making some big news in the video game world, but I thought that we should talk about it briefly because it is super huge. There's also a lot of parents that probably listen to this podcast.
Oh, yes.
that have kids that may want to know a little bit about what's going on. So let's talk about Fortnite. We know that Fortnite by Epic Games is a free-to-play game, and they make money on microtransactions, skins, upgrades, make your guy look super cool, whatever. However, there's a deal that Epic Games has with the Google Play Store and the Apple Store, where if their game is on your iOS device or your Android device, you can't just go to the Epic Games Store and download it, although they kind of did make that available a little while ago. But currently their term is, if you play Fortnite on your iPhone or on your iPad, or you're playing it on your tablet or your Pixel or whatever on the Google side, you have to purchase it through either Google or Apple. Apple and Google are taking a 30% cut of anything that account purchases. And to be perfectly clear, if you want any of the cool looking skins, like they had some Star Wars stuff, and like you could look like a stormtrooper.
Right.
Looks really cool. Which I thought about getting because I played it for a little while back in the day, and stormtroopers can't hit crap, and I can't hit crap in that game, so I thought that was perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, though, Apple, Google get a 30% cut. Fortnite did something this week where they basically kind of did an end run around where they said, like, look, you can come directly here to this site, and you can get all your stuff. And they're painting Apple and Google as saying, like, look, they're taking money away from us. They're taking a 30% cut, and they've done nothing for this. We could give you stuff for cheaper, but blah, 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 Apple, Google. So the problem is right now is that Apple and Google are really, really angry that they're trying to cut them out of making revenue on this. I mean, they're a business, so obviously they're going to be upset, and they know how much freaking money. I mean, this game makes it like billions of dollars a year.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
So Apple and Google have removed it from their stores. So if you still have Fortnite on your iOS device or your Google device, you can still play it. Your kids can still be playing this game until there's an update from the game developer. Then it'll update and you'll be locked out because you won't be able to play the update, and you have to have the update in order to play online. Yep. And so I don't know how this is going to end. I don't know if Epic Games, Matt, is going to bow down and just take it. But the fact that they've been unhappy for so long with that agreement and that they're going out on their own, I think they're willing to lose gamers knowing that they could still, like, how many gamers are they going to lose, right? I mean, this game is huge. It's on every console. It's on PC. Consoles and PC is probably where they are getting most of their revenue, and the deal's better there. They're not losing that 30%. I don't know. Like, do you think that this is going to be bad for Epic Games for Fortnite, or do you think this is going to end up being bad for like Apple and Google in the long run? Like, who do you think wins this?
This is bad for Fortnite. Having been around youths over the last few years, they all play it on their phones. I don't know one kid who plays it on a console. And I knew a lot of youths. I worked with the youths for our church, and they all play it on their phones or on a tablet or on someone else's phone or on someone else's tablet. It was constantly being played. This is terrible news for Fortnite. I don't see how they win this. I don't see how they come out looking good. I get that you don't want to give up 30%, but there has to be a cost. You can't just put it on. I mean, it's like selling something on Amazon and asking Amazon not to take a cut. Like Amazon's just going to put it on their site for free. No, I work for the companies that sell on Amazon, and Amazon will take 25 to 30%. They will, if they're fulfilling your product. When you buy a Prime product, that company is only going to make 70% at most
Wow.
of what happens there. So what Apple and Google, to me, is not egregious. What they're taking, that's the cost of doing business. So I think this is really bad for Fortnite. It's a bad look. I read it and I went, they're greedy. You're already making billions of dollars. You're getting greedy. Apple and Google have their terms. You agreed to it. Sorry, renegotiate when your contract is up. Sucks to be you, but what are you going to do? Whine and cry?
What? I'm not like disagreeing with you. I think the interesting thing though is that on Android devices you can sideload apps onto your phone.
Yeah.
So you could enable that. Like by default, that's off. So parents don't get scared and think your kids are out there loading unapproved apps or anything. But you can do that. So you could go to Epic Games and you could get it on your Google device. Still, the problem is with Apple, every single app you can ever have on an iOS device has to run through their app store.
Yep.
So what I think is going to happen I think in the short term, this is bad for Fortnite. I think in the long run, it's actually bad for Apple because A, they're going to miss out on revenue. Sure. Right. There's that aspect, but B, as society moves forward and as we're seeing all these changes in technology with crossplay and cloud services, if Apple continues to play this walled garden, we only allow people who are going to, be in our ecosystem only the way we want it, they further will minimize their market share. Now, granted, iPhones are huge. So many people have iPhones, but there's more Android devices out there. They've got great hardware when it comes to, interacting with their iOS for their software. But there's way more PCs out there. And the model that they're choosing and they're continuing to double down on over and over and over again, I just think as technology is taking such big strides forward, I just think that they're going to be in a position where either they're going to have to adapt or they're just going to become a little too niche for some of this stuff. That's my personal feeling on it. But I think short term, this hurts Fortnite. It looks bad. Long term, it's going to hurt Apple.
Well, we shall see.
All I know is I wish I bought into Epic Games.
I know, right?
A decade ago. Oh, goodness.
I know.
That was the last thing I had in Rebel Intelligence, Matt. And you said you were done also, right?
I'm out. Yep.
Okay. So, Matt, last week we had a conversation. We were talking about actors or actresses that were defined by a single role, like a role that so defined them that no matter what else they did, you can only think of them in this role.
Yes.
We asked the Super Friends who they thought fit that criteria, and we got quite a lot of answers. So let's jump into it. Let's go right over to our email, like we always do, fortofnerd@gmail.com. And we will start with Bernabe Butterteeth.
Oh.
Bernabe says, after calling me out on the podcast, and I'm sure this is what exactly you were intending and looking for, here's my attempt at recasting The Godfather, and will be a wild ride. Vito Corleone from Marlon Brando to Leonardo DiCaprio. Michael Corleone from Al Pacino to Jordan Fisher. Sonny Corleone from James Caan to Zac Efron. Clemenza from Richard S. Castellano to Paul Giamatti. Tom Hagen from Robert Duvall to Anthony Mackie. Captain McCluskey from Sterling Hayden to Liam Neeson. Salazzo from Al Lettieri to Giancarlo Esposito. Barzini from Richard Conte to Robert De Niro. Kay Adams from Diane Keaton to Dove Cameron. Tessio from Abe Vigoda to Jason Segel. Connie from Talia Shire to Bella Thorne. Carlo from Gianni Russo to Dacre Montgomery. Fredo from John Cazale to Michael Cera. Johnny Fontaine from Al Martino to Luke Evans. Mama Corleone from Morgana King to Viola Davis. Luca Brasi from Lenny Montana to Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Polly Gatto from John Martino to Jonah Hill. Buonasera from Salvatore Corsita to Matt LeBlanc. Mo Green from Alex Rocco to Ryan Reynolds. Apollonia from Simonetta Stefanili to Alba Baptista. Don Tomasino from Corrado Gaipe to Brad Pitt. Vitelli from Sero Urzi to George Clooney. Now let's just say I didn't have to read all of those, but Bernabe put in the time and the
Holy
effort
cow.
after calling him out, and he basically recast all of the, I'd say main roles in that film. So I was going to do him the honor of reading them all since he took the time to write them all.
Yeah, if I'd seen the movie, I'm sure I would have enjoyed that list more.
Yeah.
I liked who he cast. I like everybody that he cast.
Yep. It says, now for the question of the week. The first name that came to mind is Sir Patrick Stewart. There are two main roles I remember him. Jean-Luc Picard and Professor Charles Xavier. Those were two perfect roles, perfectly cast in my opinion. Here's the problem, Bernabe.
But there's two.
There's two! Yes,
You're supposed to have one, Bernabe.
One. I agree.
We're calling you out again.
Yep. Sorry, man. Here's the problem. I agree. He was perfectly cast in both of those roles and other things I've seen him in. But the question is a role that defined that one character so strongly that they only get associated with that character. So, he says another one that comes to mind is Neil Patrick Harris in two stages of his life. Doogie Howser and Barney Stinson. Two very different roles that I cannot imagine anybody else doing.
Two again, though.
Two again. But
I respect that. They are different ages. I can get that one.
And then you go to the cast of the OG Star Trek with William Shatner as James T. Kirk and Leonard Nimoy as Spock. See, now you're hitting it out of the park because I agree with both of those. I can't see William Shatner and think of anything other than Kirk. I know he played on TJ Hooker. I know he's the Priceline spokes guy. He's done other stuff. But he's always, will be in my eyes, Captain Kirk. Leonard Nimoy always is going to be Spock. So I think those are good calls. He says, anyway, have a good one. Hopefully you read most of the email. See you on Fall, guys. Regards, Bernabe. All right, our second email, Matt. Peter Christensen.
Yes.
Dear nerds, the new Twilight book, Midnight Sun, has a special place in my mind. My wife and I read the Twilight books around the time the last one came out, so she was really excited about the Midnight Sun leak in 2010, maybe? No one wants to read a desktop computer, so I got to use my brand new first-gen iPod Touch. Even for a dork like me, reading a PDF on a 3-inch screen isn't easy, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. We got the Audible book for the new full version, and we're going to listen to it on the road trip next week. Regarding the Disney Plus release of Mulan, I'm a defender even though I would rather get it for free. I think that the dam has burst on home release of new movies. All of the movies this year were already made and had to release one way or another. But new movies being made have to face facts about this new business model. If big budget movies can't collect theater equivalent cash up front, then we will have fewer big budget movies. The $30 is explicitly targeted at people that would have paid to see Mulan in the theater. If you were going to wait 6 months for it to be included on Disney Plus, this release isn't for you. My family saw movies in the theater all the time, and $30 at home is a lot cheaper than $75 for tickets and concessions. I'm guessing Disney's marketers and accountants sharpened their pencils, did a lot of research before coming to this decision. Disney isn't an 11-figure company by ignoring profit maximization. Also, home releases are still new and the prices haven't settled yet. This may be one of the last chances to establish a higher price point. Once too many movies release at a $20 rental, it becomes fixed in people's minds and hard to change. Disney still has a chance to make the case that Mulan is 50% better than Trolls World Tour or Scoob. Real quick, I do like what he says that like the price difference between like, you know, going to a theater, paying the concessions. Like I really do get that. And also he's probably not wrong. This is Disney's chance to kind of, you know, help maybe lock in a higher price. I agree with all those. Anyway, he goes on and says, I enjoyed the discussion on defining roles. I agree with all of the ones you listed and couldn't have come up with any others. My only thing to add is that there are XXX classes. Actors where people can only think of one role, Mark Hamill, most famous of these. Actors that have been in a lot of things, but one role stands out. Sylvester Stallone has been in a lot of movies, but he's always going to be Rocky. Same with basically every MCU actor. Their roles in the biggest movie franchise ever will overshadow everything else in their careers. Also, Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then actors that have been on so many movies that their celebrity overshadows any specific roles. Angelina Jolie, Nicolas Cage are the Voltron sum of their parts. Most interestingly, actors who have had several iconic roles have become a Rorschach test based on which one you think of. For instance, I can tell the decade you were born in by which role you associate Sean Astin. If you were born in the 80s, it's Mikey in Goonies. If you were born in the 90s, it's Samwise from Lord of the Rings. If you were born in the 2010s, he's Bob from Stranger Things. He's always been a hero to every generation. Arnold Schwarzenegger's another. He's most famous for Terminator, but he's always Conan to me. To action movie buffs, he's Predator and Commando, and he has 2 iconic comedy roles in Kindergarten Cop and Twins. Oh yeah, and he's also a bodybuilding star and politician. The actor that comes to mind to be a future Rorschach test is Chris Evans. Sure, Captain America looms large, but he, before, during, and after playing Cap, has been in silly comedies, romantic comedies, serious dramas, and other action movies. He has the range, the track record, and desire to work that I'm betting on Act 2 and Act 3 and Act 4 performances out of him in the future. Cheers, Peter Christensen. P.S. I haven't watched Band of Brothers in a while, so I had to look up that David Schwimmer played Herbert Sobel. Intense war movies aren't exactly hanging out with the family material, and I've been home for 6 months with no commute, which is deeply cut into my watch stuff only I want to watch time. Yeah. Cheers, Peter Christensen.
Nice. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Something he did say that I really kind of thought on, because I thought of this when I was watching Iron Man with the kids this weekend. Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, that was an easy one we missed.
It's an easy one because for so many people now, they're only going to see Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark.
Yep. Which
is crazy because he was mega, mega popular in the 80s for a bunch of movies he'd been in. And into the 90s, and then the kind of like his whole kind of falling out and having all the personal problems and this and that. And then coming back and playing Tony Stark really was the shot in the arm of his career again. And then he played him for 9, 10 different times in the movies.
Right.
So I think that's going to be a role that's going to define his career.
Yeah, that qualifies. Agreed.
Which is crazy. Okay. Jumping over to Twitter. We got a lot here, which is good. Tim Paulin, at TPaulin20, says, Margot Kidder will forever be known as Lois Lane. I challenge you to name one of her other 137 film appearances without looking it up.
I don't know who that is.
Margot Kidder played Lois Lane in the original Superman movie.
Okay.
And Superman 2.
Nice.
I don't think she was in Superman 3. I can't quite...
It says Superman 3 and Superman 4. That's what I'm reading. Quest for
Peace.
Yeah.
That's a bad one. Let's just be honest. And the third one's not that great either because they tried turning it into a comedy vehicle for Richard Pryor.
Gotcha. Well, never seen any of them. So, moving on.
moving on.
Okay.
Admiral's Snack Bar at super_Gibby says, Daniel Radcliffe, every time I see him personally, I call him Harry Potter. Sometimes when I can't remember his name, I say, the guy that played Harry Potter.
Nice.
That's pretty accurate.
Yep.
Will's Toy Clearance at Will's Toy Clear says, Michael J. Fox will always be Marty McFly to me.
That's same with me. We had a discussion about that before the podcast last week.
That's true.
Where I said, that's on my list, and you were like,
I said,
wait.
What? I'm like, Alex P. Keaton. Come on, man. Alex P. Keaton. You weren't born then, so you never saw the TV show. Anyway.
No.
Sleepy Paul at P. Calico 84 says, Arnold Schwarzenegger will always be the Terminator. Heck, when he became governor, they called him the Governator. Every single voice actor of Batman, the animated series for me. Every time I read a Batman comic, it's their voice in my head. Ewan McGregor will always be Obi-Wan. Else time. Nate Enberg at Nate Enberg says, I'm going to go with a different one and say John Ratzenberger as the voice of Pixar. He's been a part of almost every Pixar movie from the beginning. Now, Matt, you have a confused look on your face.
I don't know who John Ratzenberger is.
So, John
now I'm looking him
Ratzenberger
up.
famously was on the TV show Cheers, where he played Cliff Clavin, the postal worker. And he also had a small role in Empire Strikes Back. But he is in every Pixar movie where he plays, like...
Lots of voices.
It's all voices, but, like, you'd recognize, like, he plays the voice of, like, the trailer that hauls Lightning McQueen around. And then he also plays the voice of...
Looks like Ham.
Ham, yep. And so, like, some movies, he's, like, a big voice. And then other movies, like, he just has, like, a little cameo
I hear
appearance.
his voice, and I know exactly who he is. He's the Abominable Snowman in Monsters, Inc.
Yep.
I know exactly who he is. Okay.
John Ratzenberger. Cliff Clavin from Cheers, yes. El Myco at Geese Pika says, Whoopi Goldberg in Theodore Rex. Who do you think of when you think of Theodore Rex? Whoopi, exactly. I love this because this is like grade A level trolling, Mike. And here's the funny part about this. Who remembers Theodore Rex is the better question.
What the
That's so awesome. I love that. That was so
funny.
freaking awesome. 846 I Can't Breathe at DSpin67 says Christopher Reeve as Superman.
Okay.
Adam West as Batman. Henry Winkler as Arthur Fonzarelli, a.k.a. the Fonz. And John Amos as James Evans. I don't know the last one. I'm going to admit.
I don't know.
I don't know the last one. But it's true. When you think of Henry Winkler, all you think is the Fonz. Like, that role. Like, he was the Fonz. Yep. Adam West as Batman.
That's a decade one. Henry Winkler, when I think of him, I go to Arrested Development.
Right.
I don't know. I never watched Happy Days or whatever show that is that the Fonz is in.
I mean, yeah, that was it. Although Henry Winkler also was the, he was the dad that's the doctor in 30 Rock. Not 30 Rock, Parks and Rec.
I know,
John Ralphio's dad. Anyway.
Yeah.
Lucy at Barbecue Smarty says, I feel like Harrison Ford will be remembered for his role as Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I respect that. Not wrong.
I actually think it's a bigger role than Han Solo.
I agree. I think a lot of The Fugitive for some reason. Every time I think of Harrison Ford, I'm like, that's such a great movie.
Such a great movie.
It's been so long.
You find that man.
Awesome.
Find that man.
Oh, that scene with Tommy Lee Jones and they're at the waterfall, he's in the pipe, and dude, come on.
I don't care. I love that. I love that movie.
So good. Jesse's never seen it. Anyway, let's keep going. Okay. Yeah, I know.
It's Paul at I Am Crosshair says, Christopher Reeve with a little saluting gif as Superman. Oh, yes. Just in time with the JNT Baggers at JNT Podcast says, Tom Hanks has done some great work, but it'll always be Forrest Gump to me.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Hypothetical, a what if podcast at podcast_what if says, my wife says pretty much any of the Harry Potter actors, plus actors from the Twilight series. Also, Jay and Silent Bob.
Look, she's not wrong.
She's not she's not wrong
yet,
at
she's
all.
not wrong. You can't say that she's wrong yet. I can disagree and nitpick a little bit about a couple of maybe Harry Potter characters, but mostly, come on, what's Kristen Stewart really done outside of being Bella? Not that much. Robert Pattinson, not yet. We kind of talked about him.
Yeah.
He's on hold.
Yeah,
He's on hold for now. We're giving him a chance.
We got the pause button on him. Hypothetical at what if podcast then gives his answer, says, Bruce Willis is John McClane from Die Hard. I like Bruce and I know he's done other roles, but every action role seems like a reprise of Die Hard.
Maybe.
I mean, yeah, he's really
done
big
a lot of stuff.
He was really big in Moonlighting,
really
and then
like that one.
But I understand what you're saying. That it's hard sometimes not to see the John McClane character. Oh, Matt, you don't know that reference because you haven't seen Die Hard yet.
Like, how can I not know that reference? I have not seen it, but good grief, if I don't know everything about Die Hard yet, I'd be
seriously.
I don't know.
Get with it, Matt. Get with it. Come on, man. Get good.
Uh-huh.
All right, Terry A. Fletcher, Codecast at TerryCoder1 says, "Oh, Olivia Newton-John in Grease. No one could ever be Sandy."
Okay.
I know that Olivia Newton-John's done other stuff, but she's right. I can only picture her as Sandy from Grease.
Yep.
Sean Allred at Sean J. Allred says William Shatner. I'm assuming he means Captain Kirk for that role. And then also Terry A. Fletcher at TerryCoder1 says Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley. Because in the movies, what roles other than Axel Foley do you think of Eddie Murphy as? Beverly Hills Cop. It's...
yeah.
What, Daddy Daycare?
That was surprisingly good. Let's just get that out of the way. All right, let's just say Daddy Daycare was kind of good.
It's not okay. Anyway,
the Haunted Mansion.
Haunted Man. Let's see.
So bad. That's my favorite ride.
Now we're digging.
All
okay,
right, here we go. Let's keep it.
Let's go over to Instagram. Yeah. We've got Jason Both Photography, and this is actually a good one. I think this is actually a really sneaky one that I'm going to end up agreeing with. John Krasinski as Jim Halpert. Yeah, I know he's done a bunch of other stuff after leaving The Office, but watch Jim Ryan before watching season 1 of Jack Ryan. Most of the season you'll be wondering when Dwight is going to pop out somewhere.
Yep.
And I love Jack Ryan. I love that show, and I really like the way he's playing it. And I know he did The Quiet Place, and he's done, what was that movie where he was in, where he was
some wedding movie he was in too.
Yeah, there was that, but there was one where I can't remember what they call it, 13 Hours or... it's about the Benghazi. Yeah, it's about the Benghazi, yeah.
Yeah.
But every time I see him...
It's Jim.
It's Jim Halpert.
He'll never get away. None of the Office characters will ever get away from it.
Nope. And that's a real good call. I really like that, Jason. Super Friends, thank you so much for all your answers. I think there was a lot of things that you brought to light that I hadn't even thought of or considered. And then there were some that we talked about, but we kind of wanted to not, take all of them because we wanted you to have an opportunity to join in on the conversation. So thank you once again. Matt, our super friends are out there. They're helping us every week. How can they help us and themselves this week?
Well, I've got a doozy for y'all. So thanks for all the things that you do, all the things that you have done and continue to do. Y'all are wonderful. We love you. We think about you. We can't wait to get your answers to the question of the week. That sounds sarcastic, but it's not. We really do love it. And this week, I've been thinking about it for the last 2 minutes, and
nice.
the word roll keeps coming up. So I'm like, you know what sounds really good? Some homemade rolls. So my challenge, my extra something for the week, make some homemade rolls. Butter them up and eat them good. That's
get some carbs in you. That's what you're saying.
Get some carbs. It's okay sometimes to eat homemade.
Can I just say I hate
rolls.
you right now? Because I know that sounds delicious, and I know there's no way that after I get off this podcast, in any way, shape, or form, I'm going to get a hot buttered roll to be able to eat. You jerk.
Yes.
I love you, but you're a jerk.
I know. Find the nearest Texas Roadhouse, get some of that cinnamon butter on those hot rolls.
I'd like to place an order of just the rolls with the cinnamon butter.
Like, we don't charge for that, sir. Well, you dang well should.
I need a full baker's dozen.
Anyway, thanks again for all y'all do.
Matt,
Yeah.
there's something I forgot to tell you about earlier.
Okay.
This weekend, I went to the dump, and I got rid of a whole bunch of, branches, because I had to trim the tree in our park strip because some branches broke. And apparently in our neighborhood, like, a lot of these trees have got some sort of, like, disease, and so, like, a lot of them have broken and fallen over with wind throughout the last number of years. And some big branches broke off this, like, last week. So I'm afraid that, like, we're probably next for, a tree that's going to end up coming down.
Yeah.
But something happened, and I don't know what. When I was pulling all the branches and the old, like, rocking chair that we had from when Brita was nursing the boys, and I got rid of that. Later in the day, I started feeling this pain on my side, and it's like kind of like on my right side, near my ribs, and I'm sure it's just muscle, like a muscle strain or a tear, because, like, I can breathe normally and, like, it doesn't hurt. But occasionally when I twist the wrong way, or if I sit in a chair for too long, I got a lot of intense pain.
Okay.
Pain so hard that sometimes it makes me want to cry, because it's just like it's sharp, like it just hits you like, oh no, I can't twist that way. No, what did I do?
Yeah.
Kind of that moment where you're like, you want to, like, make noises that don't sound human, and you're trying to hold it in, and you're like, come on, hold back that tear, be a man. And I was thinking about that, and you and I were talking, and I was thinking, sometimes, Matt, it's okay to be a man that cries.
It is.
It is. And sometimes it's okay, Matt, to be a man that cries at a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
And right now, I'm on a bunch of pain medication, and it's really kicking in. And I can't feel the pain that's hidden, but I can feel emotional pain.
Oh yeah.
And I think we should talk about why it's okay to cry at movies, and movies that make us cry.
Yes. Love this.
Deep and personal.
Oh yeah.
So with that being said, Matt, tell us why you're okay crying at movies, and what's one of the movies that makes you cry.
Oh my goodness. I've never been too shameful of my emotions. I would admit to being an emotional individual. Always have been. And I like it. I'm going to say it. I like being emotional. And sometimes, hear me out, it's good to get a nice cry in. Now, I'm not saying I cry very often, because I don't. However, it's nice. It's nice to get a good cry when things are hard and you just feel like, I want a good cry. I want to feel something.
Yeah.
And crying is a good natural emotion, whether you're a man or a woman or a child or a baby. It's just the way things are. So I've got no problem crying. I'll cry in movies and TV shows as often as my wife. Perhaps I will say more often than my wife. And I'll start my list off with a an obvious low-hanging fruit kind of answer here, and I'm going to go with a movie that made me cry in the theater, and that is Toy Story 3.
Oh.
That movie wrecked me. Just wrecked me. I was up in your neck of the woods when I saw that, up in Utah. Went with some friends, and I came out. I went with Charles, actually. Not went with some friends. I think it might have just been me and Charles, two grown men going to see Toy Story 3. Both came out with red eyes, just emotional. That movie is so good. And this, I think it topped our list of Pixar. I don't remember. It was in our top 3. Both of us had Toy Story 3 in our top 3 of our Pixar rankings. That movie makes me cry. It's beautiful. The ending is, oh my gosh. I cried probably in 2 different spots in that movie.
Toy Story 3 is on my list as well.
Nice.
Okay. And I think for me, a big part of that is that the movie is about growing up, and it's about letting go of your childhood and that kind of transition between childhood to adulthood. And I think that's a tough thing for a lot of people, but I know it's tough for men. I feel like there's this like stigma in society that like men need to be the providers. Men need to be strong for their partners and for their families and kids. And you see that like this kid Andy is facing this huge turning point, and he's going to go off to college and he's going to become an adult, and he just doesn't want to necessarily let go. And then the moment that always gets me is that the toys, they don't want to let go either. Yeah. They don't want to give up their kid that played with them. It's going to change their life. It's going to change everything about them. And so when there's that moment when they're all facing their demise, and then they all decide to hold hands because they're going to face it together and they're going to go out together, like that rips my heart out. I always watch it, and I sit there and I just like, I do the same thing. Like I cross my arms, I get my arms up high on my chest, and like, so I can like sit there and easily like start wiping away tears, and I just like cry silent tears because it's beautiful and it's sad and it's emotional. But then like after you kind of get past that, at the very end when Andy's giving away his stuff, and then he looks down and he sees Buzz and Woody there, and it's like it's that last moment of like, this is it. I actually have to give this up, and I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't planning on this, and now I'm faced with it. And when he like, when he hands them over and then he's driving off, he says, "So long, partner," to Woody.
Yeah. Oh,
gosh. I'm like, you dang pixel. You dang pixels. You're just little drawings, and Pixar, you just, like that, that movie just gets me.
Yep.
It just freaking gets me.
Yeah, it does. Gets both of us. Along with probably most everybody who's listening right now.
Yep. I will say, it's interesting is I don't ever remember crying at a movie as a kid. I mean, I'm sure I maybe did. Maybe I was scared of something, or maybe I took it, but in my recollection, I don't ever remember crying at something as a kid. Definitely not as a teenager. Yeah. I don't know that I think I always emotionally was very detached when it came to movies, because I was like, this is all made up. This is a story. It's not real. None of this is real, blah, 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 blah. Until after my dad died. After my dad died, it was like going through that experience with so much emotion, and I felt like I cried for weeks and weeks and weeks straight. That it was after that I think I just like felt like open to be like, I look at things differently. Like I would see something happening to a kid in a TV show, even though I didn't have kids at the time. I just couldn't take it. Like it just, emotionally I was like, no, like I would get like a very visceral emotional reaction Whereas a year or two before my dad passed, I'd watch it like, that sucks. Like that would be, I was like, that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And now, and like, then I would get really angry. Anyway, a movie that's a little bit older that's on my list that is not probably super well known.
Oh.
But it is gut-wrenching. Nonetheless, is a movie called My Life. It stars Michael Keaton and Nicole Kidman.
Okay.
And pretty early on in the movie, you find out that Michael Keaton's character of Bob has cancer. And he's going to die.
Yeah.
And his wife is pregnant with their first child on the way. And so the whole movie is like this journey that he goes on to kind of like reconnect with his father that he's kind of has like this estranged relationship with. But also Michael Keaton starts taking videos of himself giving advice to his future son. Because he knows that he's not going to live to see his son be born.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to watch. You watch this man who struggles with all these family issues, and then they have the funeral. And then it ends with, like, I'm just getting emotional thinking about it. It ends with the little kid who's maybe, I don't know, 14, 15 months at the time, maybe a little younger, sitting in front of the TV with Nicole Kidman tapping on, going, look, it's daddy, it's daddy. And it's a video of like Michael Keaton's character, Bob, like teaching his kid how to shave and showing him how he shaves his face and shave a balloon.
Yeah.
And teaching him like, here's how you do a handshake. Here's how you do a real strong handshake to make a first impression. Here's how you ask a woman out on a date. Like it's all these videos of life, true father advice you need. And like that's something where like having lost my dad, I had my dad for a long time, but like the idea of like, you know, not knowing your father, not having someone to give you that sort of stuff, and then seeing it like that, like, I don't know what it is. That movie just, it gets me. I can't watch it anymore. It's too real for me. It's way too real for me. But like just thinking about it, like I'm getting a little choked up just thinking about that movie. It's acted beautifully. It's a wonderful movie, but have a box of tissues next to you.
Gosh. I don't want to watch that. That's rough.
There's this whole scene with the little circus in the backyard.
Okay.
Like,
anyway, moving on.
You.
I can't. Don't.
Call my mom and ask my mom about that. She'll make you cry just listening to her talk about it.
Okay. I'm gonna go with something in the vein of the podcast next.
Okay.
Avengers Endgame.
Really?
Oh yeah. I cried every single time I've watched this movie. I've cried. There's not one time that I haven't cried watching this movie. It is that the culmination of events. The way that they've done it, the way that Tony Stark's snap and death is handled, and the funeral, it's, I don't know how you, every time I went and saw it in the theater, there were all in the theater. That movie gets me. Now, maybe not now if I went and saw it, but the first 3 times I saw it in the theater, it was like a train hit me. Every time. It was so good. It was so well handled. And like I said, I get emotional frequently, so it didn't surprise me that a movie like Avengers Endgame made me cry.
Right.
But that one, I just think that movie is so good. And the way that they handle Tony Stark's death and funeral and everything is painful and beautiful and awesome. And I think the Russos are so talented, and the storytelling throughout the MCU is so great that it's great. So great.
I don't cry at that one, but I do. It's maybe because it's more like it's shock. I'm just shocked at it.
Okay.
At that moment, it's like it doesn't. doesn't hit me. But I've got one that does, and it definitely is like a build up in this movie, and then it like just all at the very, very end. Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan, I know by so many people is considered to be like one of the best portrayals of a war movie. It's the whole idea is, you know, that there's all these young American boys and men that put a higher ideal of service ahead of their own lives, that they're going to take this risky mission to go find this one soldier that's like, you know, fallen behind enemy lines in France and bring him out, extract him basically and get him to safety because all of his other brothers died, and so they're going to try to save him. And everything that happens from the moment when they finally find him, and then they're losing people, this ragtag group of people, you know, these soldiers, they're losing people all in the effort to save Private Ryan.
Yeah.
And it gets to the end, and like Tom Hanks is like this everyman. Like you like, how can you not love Tom Hanks?
Right.
And you see him like end up dying like right near the end of the film to save Private Ryan. And then at the very, very end, you see Private Ryan as a grown adult man who's like way late in life, maybe in his 80s, collapsing on a headstone in Arlington, crying, and like his family's never seen this kind of emotion from him. You know, he just can't hold it back in anymore. Right. And he turns to his wife and says, like, am I a good man? Was their sacrifice worth it? That gets me so hard, because I think for me, I want to know that I'm doing the best I possibly can for my family, and that I'm not wasting opportunities that I may have to be there for them emotionally, physically, mentally, you know, fiscally, whatever. Like, I want to be there for my family. I want to be that guy that family and friends can rely upon. And that's just me. But this character has those feelings, but he also wants to know that all those men that gave their lives so that he could live, was their sacrifice worth it? Right. Or would it have just been better if he just never was saved? Oh my gosh, like that just... I can't help it. I just cry so hard at that point, because it's like, dude, like, how do you answer that? And that's literally, like, as this guy's getting towards the end of his life, that's the question that's still on his mind 50, 60 years later. I mean, whew, is that...
Yeah. Super Friends, if you could see Spencer right now...
It's hard. Like it's hard. Like,
this is a tough topic.
Yeah.
I went with kind of I put war movies. 1917, The Patriot, Hacksaw Ridge. Those all, for all the same reasons, make you emotional. The sacrifice and the questioning, and some of them are more, you know, religion based. Some of them are more sacrifice, just kind of a general base. But so I'll just kind of throw those in with what you just said and say ditto. And then the next one I'll mention is one that I've mentioned on the podcast before that leaves me heaving in tears, and that's Big Fish with Ewan McGregor.
Okay,
one of my favorite movies, just beautifully done stylistically. The movie is fun, it's silly, it's crazy, it's outrageous. And then at the end, it's like, holy crap, Tim Burton made a movie that makes me cry, like hard tears. Like questioning my relationship with my family and my legacy kind of tears.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening? And I don't need to rehash, because I think we talked about this movie maybe a month ago, 2 months ago on the podcast, where we kind of talked about the story and why it's emotional to me. It was like a father-son thing, and father-son things always get me, as they do you, certainly. But there's something special about a good relationship between a father and a son, and there's something even more special about a strained relationship that gets mended or that has the potential to be mended, and it's beautiful. So Big Fish is a movie that makes me cry big boy tears every time I watch it. And so I try not to watch it as often, even though it's so great, because I don't know that I always want to cry the big tears.
Yep, I get you. The next one I have is actually a sports movie. I think there's lots of sports movies. Like, I thought about the movie Rudy, and like that one actually doesn't really make me cry, but it like
inspirational.
It's inspirational,
you feel something
yeah.
Still, yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of emotion that can be built up by the underdog kind of, narrative, and usually you see that in a lot of sports themed movies. But for me, it's Rocky. The original Rocky.
So good.
It's such a good film, and at the premise, or at the the heart of it, it's about a guy who doesn't have a lot. He's never been given a big shot, and when that shot comes, he doesn't want to just take it lightly. He wants to grab that moment and take every ounce of opportunity to make his mark on the world, and to give his best, to lay it all out on the field. And if he doesn't win, he doesn't win, but he knows that he's done everything that he could.
Yeah.
And so you can't help but root for him. You can't help but want to see him, because he's a down on his luck kind of guy. I mean, he's like, a leg breaker for a loan shark. He's not in a good place. The woman that he's dating, she's kind of this wallflower, but she kind of gets verbally abused by her brother. Like,
right.
He doesn't have a great home life. But at the end of that film, when he's gone 15 rounds with the heavyweight champion of the world, and he's still standing, and he yells out, he's like, I just want to say, this is, the greatest night of my life, yo, Adrian, I did it. It's so emotional for me. I can't help but tear up a little bit, because he set out to do what he wanted to do, and he achieved it. Even though he didn't win, that's not the point. Winning was not the point. It was saying, I just want to prove to myself that I'm not a nobody. I love that. I love that so freaking hard.
Oh man, I love it too. Rocky is every Rocky movie is great. Even the bad one, even the ones that aren't as good, to me, they're still great because it's still Rocky.
True.
Another movie and series that Jesse has never seen, Rocky.
Really?
So there's a lot of, she needs to be educated on Rocky. It's so good, and the underdog story is beautifully told. And you're right, and he wants someone to share it with, which is why the Adrian storyline is so cool too. Because he wants someone important in his life. So then the next one I'm going to go with, another one in the vein of the podcast, is The Return of the King, Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
the whole series is obviously great, and it's building, and this is one of those ones where it's like you said, it's a builder from the very beginning of the first movie until the very, one of the 8 trick endings of the movie, but the part that gets me emotional, crying, teary-eyed, is when the hobbits go to kneel, and then Aragorn says, no. You kneel to no one.
Bow to no one.
Yeah, and then everybody, I'm going to get the chills just thinking about it.
Yeah, everyone in the theater.
It's like, oh my gosh. And then they all kneel, and these hobbits are just looking at each other, and you're like, that is the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many points to Lord of the Rings, but one of the beautiful points is, something so small and meaningless as a hobbit, 4 of them
can change the world.
It's such a powerful message. It doesn't, it's echoed throughout all history. Just because you're small doesn't mean you can't make make mighty change and change the world, and the hobbits are just a beautiful example, and J.R.R. Tolkien is a genius, and it's so great, and it gets me teary-eyed every time. I love that part. It's such a great part.
Yeah, that's a good one. I definitely like that one. Oh, that scene's so good too. Oh gosh. Okay.
I know.
Here's my last one.
Okay.
It's a doozy for me.
I'd say the last one is a doozy for me too.
Okay. It's Field of Dreams.
I knew you were going there. There.
Okay, so I gotta say that, like, when I watched this movie, because the movie came out in 1989, as a 10-year-old kid watching the movie, didn't affect
whatever.
me. Yeah, it was a baseball movie. It's kind of cool. There's ghosts that come out of the cornfield and they play baseball. I watched that movie for a long, long time without any problems. Then, probably about 2 months after my dad died, I was having trouble sleeping, and I was a wreck. I had a lot going on in some bad ways that I needed to probably get some help with, but at the time, I couldn't see that. But I remember there was like an afternoon, and I was just like, I was home from school, like I was in college at the time. I was like, I want to toss on a movie. I'm like, I need a movie, something I can just watch that I've seen a whole bunch that I can just kind of zone out to. And I put Field of Dreams in. Let me tell you, Matt, this was probably like one of the largest mistakes I've ever made in my life. Yeah. It was just bad, because the whole point of this movie is not the fact that, you know, maybe you learned something about the Black Sox scandal with the 1919 World Series. Mm-hmm. It's not about the fact that this Iowa corn farmer decides to build a baseball field, and that, you know, he goes on this kind of journey, even though all this is going on. But really, when it gets down to it, all this is going on so that the story of a son who's longing for a relationship with his father can reconnect with his father. You know, if you build it, he will come, was not talking about Shoeless Joe Jackson and the 1919 Black Sox. It's not. It was about the fact that his own father had a chance to play in the majors, and so he shows up as a baseball player, as a catcher, and the main character gets to see his deceased dad and gets to talk to him at the end. He was the person that he was building the baseball field for. And he gets to have a catch with his dad, and he gets to talk to him, and he gets to let his father see his kid. And for so many reasons, that connects with me. I haven't watched this movie since 2003. I just can't. It's a beautiful movie, but I just can't do it.
Yep, when I was looking up movies and I saw that one, I knew that one was going to be one that would be extremely emotional and impactful for you. And so, you know, I can only imagine the way that one could make you feel. That's definitely a doozy.
Oh yeah, that's a doozy.
I mean, just talking about it, it's that one can get you real bad
every time. I mean, it's been 17 years. It's been 17 years, and I can't watch it. I just can't. Right. It's a great movie. I love Kevin Costner. I love the story.
Of course,
one day I will sit down with my boys and watch it. but it's not going to be today.
No.
I mean, yeah.
It could be a cool moment when you do, though. I think that's going to be a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
So the last movie that I have is, it may sound, there's probably a lot of people who haven't seen it, and many people, including myself, brushed this off when it came out as that looks like a kid's movie. That movie is Matt Damon and Scarlett Johansson in We Bought a Zoo.
Oh, yeah.
This movie tricks you into thinking it's something, and then you learn that that's not what this movie is at all. And it gets me on many, 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 many different levels. And I have taken life lessons and advice from a movie. And this movie always is at the top of my list of ones that, when I want to cry, and sometimes I do, this is the one that will for sure make me cry 3 different times. And it's all about the relationship that Matt Damon has with his wife, who's now deceased, and his son. Which, again, the father-son thing always gets me, and now being married, there are so many scenes that are so powerful as Matt Damon moves his family to a zoo where he wants to take on a new challenge. And really, this is just him distracting himself from kind of the reality of his life, that he's a single dad now, and it hasn't been that long since he's lost his wife, and he can't go back to that restaurant because that's where they used to go. And the levels of, or the depth of his relationship with this tiger, and why he will not put the tiger down even though it's super sick and suffering, and the levels and layers of all of these relationships that are happening in this one man's life. And it kind of bubbles up, and you recognize that and then when he finally shares, the biggest tearjerker is when he finally shares the moment with his kids where he met his wife and their mom, and they knew their mom, because this was only maybe a year or two before the events of, maybe even months, I'm trying to remember, before or after she passed. And that he shares the moment when he met her, when he saw her through the window at the restaurant, and he kind of role plays what happens. And then all of a sudden, she shows up, and she's there in some type of, gift from God kind of a situation. And the kids get to see her, and he gets to see her, and everybody tears up, and you get to be part of this moment. And I have always taken kind of that mantra of what he teaches his kids, all you need is 15 seconds of insane courage. That's all it takes. Whether that's jumping off the diving board, or that's asking out the pretty girl that you see, or whatever it is. All you need in life is that 15 seconds of just totally uncontrollable, just insane courage. And that's just, that movie is so good. And if you haven't seen it, and I don't blame you if you haven't seen it, or if you have seen it, I challenge you to watch it again with different eyes, like adult eyes, and try not to see this as just like a kid movie. Because I watch this with people and they say it's cute. And that's the worst thing you can say to me about a movie that I think is powerful. You say, oh, that was cute. That just pisses me right off.
Isn't it interesting though, Matt? Like, movies can have such different layers, right? Like, depending on your personal experiences, movies can hit you a different way than someone else. And then, depending on what your stage of life is, like, if I was watching, I don't know, pick a movie. Like, if I was watching, Saving Private Ryan, and I'm like at the end of my life, and you get to the end part, where he's asking, was my life worth it? Did it matter? Like, it hits me now when it's emotional, but how's it emotionally going to hit me when I'm in my 80s or 90s?
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Totally. Yep.
And I think that's interesting because I can have a very emotional reaction to something right now, and you can watch the exact same movie and maybe not have that same emotional reaction, but maybe 10 years later you would, because your circumstances would have changed, or something that happened in life, or a life lesson, or just it hits you differently. I love that movies can do that.
Yeah, me too. It's be fun to watch all these movies again as we get older and see if they hit us in the same way. There's movies that I know will always hit, right? There's movies that will never change. There's movies that hit me then that probably won't hit me. Avengers Endgame probably won't hit me even in 2 years.
Right.
The shock and the wow of that is impactful, but Lord of the Rings and We Bought a Zoo and Big Fish and Field of Dreams and the War movie, those are always going to hit us.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, and you're right. There are certainly movies probably that we have seen that we'll rewatch in 10 years and we'll go, wow, I missed the point.
Yeah. And I think that's good. I also like the rewatch things later and sometimes like give it a second look with new eyes, and I really do like that idea, because sometimes you can change an opinion on something. Sometimes you just reinforce your opinion, but sometimes maybe emotionally you're at a different place in life, and you're going to come away with something. Maybe something you want to pass on. Maybe something you want to implement. I don't know. Like, it's just, I like that idea. I think the obvious question of the week this week to the Super Friends is, Super Friends, what is a movie that makes you cry? And if you want to go into it, you can tell us why. You don't have to. You could just tell us, hey, 1989 Batman makes me cry. Boom. Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, great.
His awesome performance as Joker is so good.
It's an amazing movie. If it makes you cry,
it is.
I want to hear about it. Matt wants to hear about it. So let us know at all the normal places. You can send us an email, fortofnerd@gmail.com. You can get us on Facebook, facebook.com/fortofnerd. You can get us on Twitter @fortofnerd, Instagram @fortofnerd, or you can leave us a voicemail, 801-477-7687, and we will talk about those next week. Matt, this is 195. We're getting closer to 200. We got some close. Cool stuff coming up, and we're getting real excited for that 200th episode. I'm glad we did this tonight. I'm glad we had this talk. I'm glad we did this. I love being here every week with you.
Same, absolutely. This was I'll say a fun topic. It was good.
Yeah,
good to get real.
Yeah, for sure. So, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude, to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you always.